The National Constitution Center presents Constitutional Questions with Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch, the Dred Scott case. Dred and Harriet Scott were enslaved people whose owner had once taken them to live and work in territories where slavery was illegal. Later, Scott sued for his freedom, arguing that any enslaved person taken to a free territory automatically became free and could not be re-enslaved. In 1857, his case made it to the Supreme Court. In a 7-2 decision, authored by Chief Justice Taney, the court concluded that African Americans, whether free or enslaved, couldn't be United States citizens, and therefore they had no right to sue in federal court. Taney also wrote that African Americans had no rights which the white man was bound to respect. The decision also said that Congress had no power to prohibit slavery in the territories, that slaves were property, and that slave owners could not be deprived of their property without due process. The decision declared that the Missouri Compromise, passed decades earlier to balance the power between slave and non-slave states, was unconstitutional. Instead of settling the issue of slavery, the Dred Scott decision sped the nation's path to the Civil War. And now, Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch tells us more about the Dred Scott case and judicial overreach.
For me, Dred Scott is an example of what happens when the judiciary exceeds its intended scope and uses the Constitution to write new law. Dred Scott was a decision where the Supreme Court asserted that Congress had no power to regulate slavery in the territories. No provision of the Constitution says anything of the kind. That was lawmaking by judges. That was usurping the power of Congress by 9 members of this court. And it was done, some say, with a good intention. Some say the court wanted to avoid the Civil War and thought that this was a way to compromise, to avoid the Civil War. That did not work out. And it was a dark stain on this court's history and tradition, taking over the lawmaking power from Congress, defying the Constitution, treating persons unequally. And the result was contributing to a great Civil War. So to me, Dred Scott is a cautionary tale in what happens when judges exceed their power and engage in lawmaking rather than applying the law as written.